Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stories to Listen to in the Background.
I accidentally confessed to my friend's sister, and somehow it changed everything. 3 years ago, I wrote a message I never thought I would actually send. It was one of those late night confessions you type while staring at the screen for 20 minutes, deleting and rewriting every sentence like your life depends on it. I had been in love with Maya for months, not the dramatic, movie style kind of love, but the quiet kind. The kind where you notice the way someone laughs before everyone else does. The kind where your day feels strangely empty if you didn't talk to them. That night, I finally decided to tell her. My heart was racing as I typed the message. I know this might make things awkward, but I think I've liked you for a long time. Being around you just makes everything feel lighter somehow. I reread the message again and again. And then I pressed send, and immediately realized my mistake. I had sent it to Lena, Maya's older sister. Now, Lena and I knew each other, but only casually. Sometimes she joined us for coffee or game nights. We got along fine, but we were never especially close. For about 30 seconds, I seriously considered throwing my phone into the ocean and moving to another country. Then my phone buzzed. Her reply was simple. "Wait, are you serious?" I stared at the screen, trying to decide whether to explain the mistake or pretend my Wi-Fi had mysteriously died for the rest of my life. But before I could answer, another message came through. "Because if you are, that's actually really sweet." At that point, my brain basically shut down. I told her the truth. I explained that the message wasn't meant for her, that I had two chats open, and that I was an idiot. She replied with a laughing emoji and said, "Well, that's embarrassing for both of us now." That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. A few days later, she sent me a message out of nowhere. "Hey, accidental confessor, wanna grab coffee? I promise I won't tell Maya." I agreed, mostly out of guilt. But the thing about Lena was, she was incredibly easy to talk to. We talked about movies, terrible jobs we'd had, childhood memories, and the strange way life never turns out the way you expect. Somewhere in the middle of that conversation, I realized something strange. I wasn't thinking about Maya anymore. Weeks turned into months, coffee turned into long walks, inside jokes started forming. At some point, she even started calling me wrong number. Eventually, one night we were sitting on a bench watching the city lights when she asked me something. "Be honest," she said. "If you hadn't sent that message to the wrong person, do you think we would have ever talked like this?" I thought about it. Probably not. So I told her the truth. "No, I don't think we would have." She smiled and said, "Good thing you're bad at texting then." That was 2 years ago. Last week, while we were cleaning out old photos on her phone, she found the screenshot of that original confession message. She looked at me and said, "You know what's funny?" "What?" "That message wasn't meant for me, but somehow it still found the right person." And honestly, I think she's right.
My father left when I was 13, but I was there to care for him before he died. When I was 13, I was just a normal girl living with my parents and my brother. Life felt stable. I didn't feel like anything was missing. My father had already started keeping some distance from us, but he was still there. Then, one summer, after I came back from vacation, everything changed. My father was gone. My parents divorced, and suddenly I was growing up without him. Even his side of the family slowly disappeared from our lives. The only connection that remained was that sometimes he sent us money. And then 6 years passed like that. In December 2025, his family contacted us out of nowhere. They told us he was sick, helpless, and that we should come see him. When we arrived at their house, it was shocking. The man who had disappeared from my life years ago was suddenly standing right in front of me again. Despite everything that had happened, I took care of him. I even handled communicating with his family during that time. 2 weeks later, he finally came back home with us. My mother stayed mostly silent, almost as if she wasn't really there in the room, but quietly, behind the scenes, she helped take care of him too. After another 2 weeks, his condition got worse. We took him to the hospital many times until eventually we had no choice but to leave him there so he could receive proper care. 2 weeks later, my uncle, his brother, was admitted to the same hospital. His condition was serious as well. Whenever I visited my father, I visited my uncle too. Years ago, my aunt didn't even allow us to see that uncle, but somehow, after all those years apart, we met again in a hospital hallway. My father and my uncle had a strained relationship. Even their children, our cousins, were strangers to us. We only knew their names. The hospital and everything that followed became the first time we truly reconnected with that side of the family after so many years. 2 weeks later, my uncle passed away. We attended his funeral and saw relatives we hadn't seen for 6 years. Then, 2 weeks after that, my father died. His funeral was held the very same day he passed away. Many people came, people we never expected to see. They spoke about his generosity, about how he helped others whenever they needed money. Some people close to him explained something we had never fully understood before. The reason he had disappeared from our lives years earlier was because of his mental health. He had been struggling with schizophrenia and depression. After his psychiatrist passed away, he stopped taking his medication and ran away from everything. But even during those years, he still helped people. Whenever someone said they needed money, he would give it to them. The strange thing was that most of the money wasn't even really his. The only thing he truly owned was one house. At his funeral, many people who remembered his kindness came to say goodbye, but many members of his own family didn't even show up. Only a few came. They were surprised that we chose to bury him on the same day. But honestly, I'm grateful for the people who came, not because of the money he gave them, but because they remembered his kindness. Even though he's gone now, I'm grateful that I was able to see him in his final moments. And I'm grateful that my mother forgave him before he passed away. When she forgave him, it felt like he could finally rest. And even though he's gone, he will always live in my heart.
Am I wrong for cutting off my friend after this? I've been friends with this girl for about 3 years now. Recently, she started dating a new guy. From the beginning, he seemed a little weird toward me, but I kept that to myself because I didn't want to cause problems in her relationship. A few months later, they got into an argument because he told her he felt like we were too close. For context, I'm also a girl, so I thought that was kind of strange, but she brushed it off and we continued being friends like normal. Then one day, things got really weird. He told her that I had sent him nudes on Snapchat. When she asked me about it, I was honestly confused and a little offended. I asked her how that would even be possible when I don't have his contact information and have never spoken to him directly. She ended up sending me the photo he claimed was from me, and the girl in the picture had a completely different skin tone than I do. At that point, I started thinking about distancing myself from her because it felt like she was looking for a reason to accuse me of something or start drama. Then, about 2 weeks later, something else happened. She texted me around 8 a.m. her time, which was 7 a.m. for me, just saying good morning. We had a normal conversation about being at work and starting our shifts. Later that day, around 6 p.m. my time, I'm an hour ahead of her, I texted her and asked how her shift went. That's when things suddenly got really confusing. She immediately became hostile. She asked how I knew she was off work and said it was weird that I asked. Then she started calling me a manipulative hoe. She even said I was some kind of monitoring spirit. I tried to explain that it was just common sense. It had been hours since we talked, and most work shifts would be over by then. But she kept acting like I had done something suspicious. Her reaction felt completely random and aggressive, and honestly, I had no idea where it was coming from. Eventually, I got upset and snapped back at her because I felt like she was accusing me of things that made absolutely no sense. Even after that, she still couldn't understand why her reaction seemed unreasonable. Now I'm just left feeling confused about the whole situation. Am I missing something here? Or is her behavior really as strange as it feels to me? I'd really like to hear some outside perspectives on this.
I basically raised my little brothers, and now I'm not allowed to talk to them. Hi, I'm 15, and I honestly don't know where else to share this. I'm really worried about my brothers, and I'm hoping someone might have advice or know if there's anything my mom and I can do. I have 2 little brothers who are 9 and 5 years old. Ever since they were born, I've basically helped raise them. I'm their older sister, but for most of their lives, I've been the one doing the things a parent normally does. When they were little, I fed them, bathed them, helped them get dressed, and put them to bed. As they got older, I woke them up for school, helped them with homework, cleaned the house, made sure they ate, and took care of them when they were sick. If they had nightmares or got scared at night, they slept in my bed because I was the one they felt safe with. I even went with them to doctor's appointments and answered questions because I was the one who knew their routines and what was going on with them. For almost 2 years, I was basically doing everything a parent would do. Our mom is 43, and she used to be the main person taking care of us. But our home life was really difficult because of my stepdad. He has a lot of health problems, but he also treated my mom very badly. There were times when he hurt her physically. I remember him hitting her when she was pregnant, and even after she had just given birth and was still recovering. Seeing that as a child was really scary and confusing. My mom tried to protect us as much as she could, but things in the house were never stable. Eventually, my mom was deported. After that happened, she couldn't come back or fight for custody of my brothers, even though she had been their main caretaker before. My stepdad ended up with primary custody. Even before the deportation, he didn't want my brothers seeing our mom. He would stop them from talking to her or visiting her whenever she tried to stay involved in their lives. After my mom was gone, things became even harder. My stepdad works a lot and also sleeps a lot because of his health problems. He isn't really involved in taking care of my brothers on a daily basis, so most of the responsibility fell on me. For about 2 years, I did almost everything for them. I love them so much, so I didn't complain. I just wanted to make sure they were okay. But things got worse when my stepdad started controlling me more. At one point, he forced me to stay inside the house for about a month. I wasn't allowed to leave, see friends, or even go to school. I felt completely trapped. Eventually, I made the decision to leave so I could see my mom again. That meant leaving Idaho and going to where she was. Before I left, I gave my 9-year-old brother my phone number so we could stay in contact. For a short time, we were able to talk. Hearing his voice meant everything to me. But my stepdad found out and took the phone away. Now I have no contact with them at all. I don't know how they're doing. I don't know if they're safe. I don't know if someone is actually taking care of them. I worry about them constantly because for years I was the one responsible for them. They're not just my brothers to me. I helped raise them. Leaving them behind was the hardest thing I've ever done. Right now, my mom and I are trying to figure out if there is anything we can do legally or any resources that might help us reunite with them, or at least allow them to see their mom again. Before the deportation, she was their main caretaker, but now everything feels impossible. I just want to know if there's any advice, resources, or steps we can take. I miss them so much, and I'm scared for them. If anyone has guidance, I would really appreciate it. And for context, my stepdad is also undocumented, in case that information is relevant.
My brother's wedding completely destroyed our family, and I still don't know how to feel about it. This happened back in 2016. My older brother suddenly announced that he was getting married to one of his classmates, a girl named Andina. The strange part was that none of us even knew they were dating. Apparently, he had been in love with her for about 2 years since the start of their studies, but he had never once told the family that they were actually together, let alone that a wedding was coming. Our family is huge. I have 3 sisters and 4 brothers, so when the news broke that the second oldest brother was getting married, the entire house went into chaos. Everyone started preparing immediately, organizing things, calling relatives, planning the celebration. What made it even stranger was that the preparations started before our family had even met Andina or her parents. But no one seemed too worried. Everyone was just excited. The wedding took place at the beginning of March, barely a month after we found out about it. It was a big celebration. Relatives from both families came, along with friends, neighbors, classmates. It felt like half the town showed up. The hall was completely packed. I knew almost everyone there, except for one person. There was this boy I had never seen before, and he immediately caught my attention, but not in a good way. Something about him made me uneasy. He was slender, very delicate looking, with a noticeably feminine figure. He wore light makeup, tight shorts, and a fitted t-shirt. Later, I learned that he was Andina's younger brother, Cam. The way he looked and acted made it pretty obvious that he was gay, but that wasn't what bothered me.
What bothered me was how he behaved around my brother. All evening he hovered near him, constantly sitting close, touching his shoulders, winking at him, laughing at everything he said. At one point, he even kissed my brother on the cheek. I wasn't the only one who noticed. My parents noticed. Andina's parents noticed. Several relatives kept glancing toward the table where Cam had somehow ended up sitting in the bride's seat next to my brother, openly flirting. The strangest part? Andina didn't seem to care at all. She was dancing with her friends, drinking, and having fun. At some point, she completely disappeared from the banquet hall, and no one saw her for hours. The party continued until about 7 in the morning. By that time, guests started leaving to get some sleep before returning later for the second day of the wedding. In our town, there's a tradition. Everyone gathers outside to see the newlyweds off as they leave for their hotel. People throw printed photos of the couple taken before the wedding at the car as it drives away. But suddenly, someone realized something strange. There were no photos of my brother and Ondina. Everyone stood outside confused, asking where the photos were and how we were supposed to send them off. Then the doors of the restaurant opened. My brother walked out, and Cam was holding onto his arm, hugging it tightly. They walked straight past everyone, got into the car together and closed the door. Meanwhile, Ondina calmly walked outside and stood with the guests. A moment later, people started throwing photos at the departing car.
But the photos weren't of the bride and groom. They were photos of Cam and my brother. You could hear people gasping. Some were shouting. Others just stood there in complete shock. Naturally, everyone immediately surrounded Ondina, demanding answers, asking what kind of chaos she had just turned the wedding into. And that's when she told us everything. A few months earlier, their university had hosted an open house event. Their group went to a club to celebrate afterward. Ondina knew that my brother had been in love with her for years. That night, he got drunk, kissed her, and tried to convince her to go somewhere private with him. She gently refused and told him she didn't feel the same way. But my brother kept insisting, trying to pull her toward the bathrooms. That's when Cam stepped in. Apparently, Cam had secretly been in love with my brother for a long time. Instead of stopping him, Cam grabbed my brother and dragged him toward the bathrooms himself. That night, they hooked up, and according to Ondina, it didn't stop there. For about a month, they kept meeting in secret. She said that before every meeting, Cam would spray himself with perfume containing aphrodisiacs, and when he came home afterward, he would have hickeys all over his neck and look ridiculously pleased with himself. Hearing all this was surreal.
My brother had always been a gym-obsessed, traditionally masculine guy who used to make borderline homophobic jokes. The idea that he had secretly been sleeping with the brother of the girl he claimed to love felt completely impossible. We thought the story was already insane enough, but then Ondina revealed the worst part. During those meetings, Cam had been secretly putting aphrodisiacs and some kind of drug into my brother's drinks. According to her, he had basically made my brother dependent on him. And that was the last day we ever saw them. Right after the wedding, my brother and Cam disappeared together. They flew somewhere abroad and cut off all contact with both families. The whole situation was so shocking that I honestly don't even remember parts of that day clearly. All I know now is that my brother and Cam are still together somewhere in Europe. And the strangest twist of all, Ondina eventually married my other older brother. She's now pregnant. So somehow, after all that chaos, she still ended up becoming part of our family anyway. And honestly, I still don't know what to think about any of it.
Growing up watching my father be broken, am I wrong for wanting nothing to do with my mother anymore? I've been carrying this for years, and I don't really have anyone to talk to about it, so I guess this is me finally letting it out. My parents, Denise and Robert, have been married for as long as I can remember. From the outside, people might think they were just another couple trying to make life work, but growing up inside that house was something completely different. My mother has cheated on my father multiple times throughout their marriage, and it wasn't something quiet or hidden. Over the years, it became something people in the community whispered about, and eventually something that wasn't even whispered anymore. People talk about it openly now. Some of the men she's been involved with were even people my father knew, his friends, his associates, men who would shake his hand during the day and then disrespect him behind his back. What hurts the most is the way my mother behaves about it. She doesn't show guilt. She doesn't show remorse. It's like she truly doesn't care about how much damage it's causing. She speaks to my father with very little respect and sometimes acts like his feelings don't matter at all. And my father, he just endures it. My dad, Robert, is honestly one of the most patient and kind-hearted people I know. I've seen the pain in his eyes over the years, even when he tries to hide it from us. No matter what he goes through, he always tells me and my siblings the same thing. I'm here for you. I will never give up on my children. He says that all the time, and it breaks my heart.
Because I know he stays and tolerates things that no one should ever have to tolerate, simply because he doesn't want to walk away from us. Growing up watching all of this has affected me more than I think people realize. Mentally and emotionally, it's been exhausting. When you constantly see one parent disrespect and betray the other, it changes the way you see relationships. Now that I'm older, I've started noticing how much it has affected me personally. I struggle with trusting men. Dating is extremely difficult for me because somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm always expecting betrayal. I hate that it's like this, but years of watching my father get hurt over and over again has left a mark on me. The hardest part is that none of this is hidden. People in the streets talk about it openly. Sometimes I even feel embarrassed to show my face because it feels like everyone knows my family's pain. Lately, I've started distancing myself from my mother, not just out of anger, but because being around her has become emotionally overwhelming. Every time I see her, I'm reminded of everything my father has been put through and everything it has done to our family. Part of me feels guilty for wanting to cut her off completely, but another part of me feels like I need that distance just to protect my own mental and emotional well-being. So the question that has been weighing on me is this: am I wrong for wanting to distance myself from my mother because of the pain she has caused our family? I love my father deeply. Seeing the way he continues to stay strong for us despite everything is both inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time. I just don't know how much longer I can keep pretending this situation doesn't affect me. I feel stuck between loyalty, anger, sadness, and exhaustion all at once. And honestly, I just want peace.
This popular girl in my class has something off about her. I have a classmate who is extremely popular. She's smart, pretty, and sits at the very top of the social hierarchy in our class. She's practically good at everything, and honestly, I can't name a single flaw about her, except for her personality and the people she chooses to associate with. For context, my class is basically hell on earth. About 100% of the students are racist or xenophobic, around 90% are openly homophobic, about 70% are ableist, at least 20% are outright bullies. The worst part is that they're all friends with each other and tolerate each other's behavior, which basically makes the whole environment toxic. The only exceptions are me and my small group of friends. Let's call this girl Saint. Despite her reputation, Saint is incredibly bigoted. One of her closest friends even admitted they don't agree with the way she acts, but they feel forced to pretend to like her because if they stopped being friends with her, their reputation in the class would be destroyed. It's already obvious that Saint has a superiority complex. She can command the room easily because she's the class president. She clearly sees anyone who isn't in the highest academic group as being below her. Recently, my friend and I started paying more attention to her and even did some digging online, and that's when things started to feel strange. We noticed something odd about her, and even about her family. The longer we looked at pictures of them, the more unsettling it felt. There's something uncanny about them, something that's hard to explain. Saint herself has been described by others as very cunning, and she's also extremely religious. The more we looked into things, the more strange coincidences we found. I'm not going to go into full detail, but there were enough things to make both of us genuinely uncomfortable. It almost feels like there's something going on behind the scenes with her family, something we can't quite explain. Maybe it's mental, maybe it's spiritual. I honestly don't know, but both of us have this strong gut feeling that something isn't right. People always say that the eyes are the windows to the soul, but when we look into their eyes, it feels like there's nothing there. It's unsettling. Recently, my friends and I stopped talking to her as much. We're all openly part of the LGBTQ+ community, and at one point we even joked about wanting to annoy her because of her beliefs. At the time, I didn't think much of it, but after noticing all these strange things, I can't help but feel uneasy. Now I'm honestly a little scared about what might happen next.
My friend Ashley and I have been through everything together. Real friendship. I stood by her side when life was rough for her, when things at home were difficult, when everything in her life started changing and nothing felt the same anymore. I was still there. My family knows her too. My mom comforts her, my sister talks to her, even my little brother knows her. She's basically been around my family like she's one of us. But lately, things have started getting weird. My ex, Jason, the same boy who once confessed to my older sister back in 6th grade, right in front of me,
is suddenly having these awkward little conversations with Ashley. They're laughing, talking, acting all mysterious. And I'm just standing there thinking, girl, what exactly are you seeing here? Because this is the same boy who already confessed to my own sister, and now suddenly he's back moving around the friend circle again. So after one of their little cringy conversations, Ashley comes up to me and starts asking these strange questions. She says, "What if one of your friends dated your ex?" Immediately, I knew that question wasn't random, but I stayed calm. I didn't start drama, I didn't react emotionally. Instead, I just made up a story. I told her that my sister once had a friend who dated her ex, and now they're not even friends anymore. I said my sister told me that if something like that ever happened to me, I should end the friendship. Then Ashley switches it up and says, "What if I was forced?" Then she changes it again. "What if your friend was forced?" And I'm just standing there thinking, girl, why is this story changing every 5 seconds? But then the part that really made me suspicious happened. When I asked her directly, "Okay, so what did Jason actually say to you?" She suddenly went quiet. Then she said, "They told me not to tell anybody." Anybody? Girl, I'm your best friend. I stood by you when life was hard. I stayed loyal when everything was messy. My family welcomed you and treated you like family. And now suddenly there are secrets and conversations that I'm not allowed to hear? So now I'm just stepping back and watching the situation quietly. Because honestly, what is actually going on here? The same Jason who confessed to my sister back in 6th grade is now whispering and laughing with my best friend. And that's not something I'm about to lose my peace over. So right now, I'm just observing everything and thinking, girl, what exactly are you seeing in this situation? Because right now, the math is really not mathing.
My now ex told me I wasn't allowed to break up with him. When I was with my now ex, let's call him Finn, he was extremely toxic toward me. And I don't mean the kind of situation where people get into one argument and suddenly call their partner toxic. I mean things like getting mad if I didn't reply to his messages immediately, going through my messages, getting upset if I spent time with my friends at school. At one point, he even cussed me out because I texted him "love you" instead of "I love you." At first, I thought maybe things would improve the longer we were together, but that never happened. It actually got worse. One of the biggest problems involved this girl. Let's call her Trisha. Trisha had disliked me for a long time. She was always trying to cause problems between me and my friends or relationships. She would tell Finn that I was walking around flirting with other guys, trying to start drama between us. At the same time, he had a girl best friend. We'll call her Olivia. Finn and Olivia were together all the time, but somehow I was the one getting yelled at just for hanging out with my own friends. Anyway, one day I messaged Finn and said we needed to talk. It was about something I had heard, that he supposedly had a roster of girls ready for after we broke up. When I brought that up, he somehow assumed that meant I was about to break up with him. So he started telling my friends that he wasn't going to let me break up with him. When I heard that, I immediately messaged him again and said, "Actually, now I am breaking up with you, because you're not going to tell me that I'm not allowed to break up with you." And he literally replied, "No." Like he thought he had the authority to decide that. I told him that's not how the world works and that he needed to get over himself. Then I blocked him. But the story doesn't end there. After that, he actually called my mom and told her what happened. Luckily, my mom was completely on my side, but still, the fact that he thought he could just tell me no when I tried to break up with him was insane. So now I'm curious, what do you guys think about this whole situation?
If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe.